Today's show is supported by Liberty Magic, Pittsburgh's premier speakeasy theater dedicated to the art of elevating magic. This time they are presenting David Williamson in Ridiculous, a family-friendly show where magic and comedy collide. David's signature magic is filled with jaw-dropping illusions and a very distinct sense of humor. Yes, he is a magician, but he's also been called a clown and even an anarchist. So get ready for a show with a lot of laughter. Ridiculous runs from April 2nd to May 3rd. Get your tickets at trustarts.org/magic before they disappear. This is City Cast Pittsburgh. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. What Pittsburgh restaurant would absolutely never get a Michelin star, but you think has something so delicious that literally everyone in the city should taste it anyway?
Go to Amazing Dumplings or Tasty Noodles or Ramen King 2.
Okay.
None of those places would get a Michelin star because of the, sort of bougie overlay of the star.
There's grand motion.
I'm gesturing right now too. This is an overlay. But I mean, all of those places serve food that is like incredibly delicious and prepared from scratch with care. And I mean, I love Dish. I don't think that's,
Really?
That's a place that Michelin wouldn't recognize.
Okay, we're going to talk about this. I am with City Cast Pittsburgh contributor and Post-Gazette dining critic Hal B. Klein, talking about food awards like the Michelin Stars and the James Beard Awards, which just popped some news this week, about weather and how much they matter and why Pittsburgh gets some recognition for some things, but like totally left out of others. So let's start with that big one, Michelin. Why don't we have starred restaurants? Why haven't they come to Pittsburgh?
So basically, with the Michelin Guide, you have to pay to get them to come to the city.
Like the city, the region has to tell them, we want you to come. How much does it cost?
I don't know specifically, but I know it's a lot of money.
Like Philadelphia just did it.
Right. So Philadelphia did that, and you invest, hundreds of thousands of dollars in this thing.
Hundreds of thousands?
I think so, yeah. We should look up a figure, live action. We're going to look up the actual figure. But like the whole campaigning part, the whole bringing people in part, and then it's a big investment. And I think cities would only do it if they feel like there are enough places. Oh, you're looking like it's even more than I thought it was.
This is so generic. So like, who the heck knows? What I'm seeing, and this is from that stupid Google AI overview, so huge grain of salt, but it says roughly $300,000 annually, which is what's reported for Atlanta, to over $1 million for like a 3-year period for North Carolina. So I guess it's all negotiated. Like it can be hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Partnerships can get involved. Hal, this is upsetting. Yeah,
it's kind of crazy. And it's, in our world right now where there's just so much information overload, Michelin star becomes the thing where it's like, oh, well, this is the branded one.
Yeah.
But when you look a little bit deeper into it, you're like, wait a second, like, not to take anything away from the level of seriousness that the judges, I'm sure, put into making this guide as good as they can, but it's a very specific
like rubric
window. Yeah. And, it costs a place a ton of money to do that.
Wait, so do the restaurants pay to be part of it? Or you mean like they have to adjust their menus or their wine programs or whatever to like fit the parameters that the Michelin group looks for?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're like going for a star, you would recognize, okay, like they want a classic European wine list, or if it's like a natural wine list, it has to be like the most incredible. So like a place like Apteca would like confuse Michelin judges because it's, you order at the counter in the beginning. It's very distinctly its own. They would probably be put off by like, oh, there's like sage coming through, like they're cleansing it. And so what it does is it puts a certain type of restaurant, right, with like an old school, generally Western European based service at an advantage, which is like, not to take away from restaurants like that. Like they're amazing experiences, but those are the ones that are going to end up getting the star. And you'll see something like a Bib Gourmand or like like they have these like Michelin now has these like kind of pat on the head, like guide.
Like honorable mention?
Yeah, sort of. But like, you don't quite qualify for the star because we don't have servers, but like, you're good anyway. Or like a Michelin recommended is like the honorable mention now, I think.
Is European a euphemism for white and rich? Like this is starting to feel like a little bit like racist coded. Can you even be coded? Is it just sort of racist?
I don't think it's like not like it's so hard to say in the sense of like a broader overview, but it's like very specifically coded to what fine dining for. It's like more systemic, I'd say, right?
Yeah.
Like this is like
so is racism. But yeah.
Like this is what has been viewed as fine dining for years. But it doesn't necessarily mean, like the type of cuisine has expanded. So it's not just if you're making beautiful French
cuisine,
food, right?
Yeah.
But it's, we do expect a certain, it's like almost more like wealth coded.
Okay.
At this point. It's like moved from a more like specific like geography, race-based coding to like a class coding.
Oh, that does not make me feel better.
No.
Okay, so you just process of elimination here. You've said, okay, you need servers. It sounds like you also need white tablecloth.
Generally speaking.
Like not counter service?
Not counter service, but like it doesn't need white tablecloth if there's like a certain amount of like chic to it.
So when you say chic, do you mean like decor? So for example, like, and I realize they're also counter service, but I'm thinking back to one of the greatest reviews you've ever written of any restaurant in Pittsburgh, which was about gaucho, where you talked about just how terribly confused the decor could be in there. How, I assume that's probably not chic enough.
No, but I think that's where like those guides actually are a little bit helpful in the sense of like cohesive, right? So gaucho, it wasn't so much that it wasn't chic, it was like incohesive. It was like what is like I feel like everywhere I go there's a different thing that's happening. And I think in a guide like this, like there's like a certain standard and you can argue with why a standard and what the standard is.
Yeah. Is
but
that
like,
boring though? Like would you see like kind of the same type of aesthetic maybe
no.
from spot to spot if they have a star?
No, definitely not. Like I've been to a few places in Europe
that have them?
Yeah. And like the last one I went to was a place in London, just like a chef's counter with like a really good, like an amazing playlist. It was hip. It was cool. It was a tasting menu experience. I think a lot about like restaurants and theater. And this was like a very theatrical experience, like similar to one by Spork that it blurred, who was working front of house, who was working back of house. And people would come up and be like, this is
presenting your dish
in abalone and here's a little story about it. And it was fun. And it was like, it was the pinnacle of that sort of restaurant. But it was, again, like very specific. And in a way that like, if you hadn't been to a place like that, you would either be like completely wowed or like totally uncomfortable.
City Cast Pittsburgh is brought to you today by Allegheny County. The county is recruiting poll workers, such an important job for the May 19th primary election. Poll workers, also called election officers, help run voting locations, and they earn money, $150 to $175 for the day, plus paid training before Election Day. Training can be in person or online, and new poll workers must complete it before working on Election Day. To serve, you must be a registered voter here in Allegheny County and be able to work the full day on May 19th. Poll workers play an important role in ensuring a smooth, fair election, and they gain valuable experience interacting with voters and managing the election process. If you're interested in earning a little extra money and supporting your community, apply online at AlleghenyVotes.com. Learn more and submit your application at AlleghenyVotes.com today. Today's show is supported by Quantum Theater. We appreciate a good nem-nose here at City Cast Pittsburgh. And if you enjoy a look behind the scenes, you're not going to want to miss the new comedy 10 out of 12. The play is all about the technical rehearsal that happens before a play's opening night. And the audience will get a glimpse of how lighting and sound and scenery and special effects all come together and the chaos that can come along the way. And Quantum is really taking this experience to the next level. It's really what they're known for. As an audience member, you are going to wear a headset. So one of the staples of a stage manager, which means you get to listen in on all the backstage drama in addition to the actors as they're doing their thing on stage. 10 out of 12 is written by Anne Washburn, directed by Andrew William Smith, and it's staged in the Mellon Institute's gorgeous Art Deco Theater. The show runs from April 3rd through the 26th. Learn more and purchase tickets at quantumtheater.com/10-12. I've heard people on the internet, this is not my tax bracket, but like I've seen people say like it's their goal to go to like a Michelin starred place in every city, or they want to go to as many of them in a region as they can, like that sort of thing. Is that something we should aspire to as a city? Like to be part of that kind of conversation?
I don't think so.
Why?
We should be Pittsburgh and be our own place. And,
do you know if Michelin, does Michelin knock on your door? Like, would they have come to Pittsburgh, or would Pittsburgh have to reach out to them?
Pittsburgh would have to reach out to them.
Any
I
idea
believe.
if we ever have?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
And Pittsburgh would be a place. So I don't know what guide we would end up in either. There's like multiple geographies.
Yeah.
So like Philadelphia ended up in a guide with like other cities in the Northeast. So like Pittsburgh wouldn't be big enough for like its own guide, right?
Yeah. Is there a Michelin Midwest?
There's one in Chicago. There's like a Chicago one. Like conceivably, if it just becomes like a more capitalistic endeavor, they could do
a Michelin
like
Appalachia.
Michelin, or Michelin, yeah, like Michelin, like
this is
former Rust Belt,
This is bringing back like our old debate about where do we belong. Like, will Michelin add to that noise?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is like when you talk about James Beard Awards, I think like I personally find it a little weird that Pittsburgh is in the same mid-Atlantic region as DC and Philadelphia, because we have much more in common with Detroit and Cleveland and maybe Columbus,
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go to James Beard, because there was some news this week. Who got nods this year? What are you watching for here in Pittsburgh?
So no finalists this year.
Which is such a bummer.
Yeah, which is too bad.
Yeah, we got semifinalists.
Semifinalists.
So that's what we were watching for.
Yeah, so we're looking for that. Apteca's was up for a newer category called Best Wine and Other Beverages.
I love the other. Other's doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
Yeah, well, I think that's like, I think this is such a cool category, actually, because I think it actually explains a lot of what Apteca does. And this was for a national semifinalist. And that could pull in not just Apteca's wine program, which is incredibly interesting, especially the work that they have to do to navigate Pennsylvania liquor laws to get that wine into Apteca.
Yeah.
It's a whole different show. And
put that in my back pocket.
But also, their cocktail program is fascinating, and their non-alcoholic beverage program is incredible. And a lot of it is coming from, they have someone on staff who is like foraging for different ingredients to make teas. It's, like, again, like when you talk about places that do what they do, they might seem hip or they might seem like a certain thing, but it's because it's coming from a real place. It's, like they're going to get, like spruce tips in the winter because Tomas's dad, one of the owner's fathers, will just come in and be like, I got, 100 pounds of spruce tips today while I was foraging.
You're talking about trees, right?
Yeah. But it's like spruce chips are like delicious, right? You can turn them into like syrups and
I've
sodas.
seen it on Top Chef, Hal, but sometimes your food knowledge just flies right over my head.
But it's like stuff like that when it's like if you see it on Top Chef and then try to do it, it's going to be derivative. But if it's like something your family's done for like generations, it could be cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think, correctly so, like their program got recognized for that, which is exciting. And then Jamilka Borges from Lilith, who's going to open another restaurant with her partner, Diane DiStefano, called Julia soon, got recognized as a semifinalist for Best Chef Mid-Atlantic, which was in the same region as DC, Philadelphia.
Yeah, Philly. Yeah. But no big ones this year. I mean, how do like a James Beard, how does that compare, that system, to something like a Michelin? And I've heard of like 5 Diamond Awards. I'm sure there are others. Like, how do all of these award systems play together, and how much do chefs care about them?
I mean, I think chefs, not every chef, but I think chefs care about them, especially James Beard, because it becomes sort of the food world equivalent to being like a New York Times bestselling author. So you get that honor once,
for the rest of your life.
And then you're James Beard nominated chef so-and-so, or James Beard nominated somm so-and-so, James Beard nominated bartender, James Beard nominated restaurant. And you can use that as part of, like, it's like a badge, I guess. And, for better or for worse, I think in a world where like people are just like looking for don't have the time to necessarily do a deep dive if they're going to a different city or whatever. Like, it helps for sure.
Yeah, it helps you stand out a little bit more as both a creator, I guess, and also like whatever restaurant you're working with or own at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But how do they compare? I mean, it sounds like James Beard is the one that like is maybe more respected here in the States. Is that fair?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think it's the one with like the broadest reach.
Okay.
And I think
we paying for James Beard or do they just come?
James Beard just comes. Like James Beard just like...
Do you have to raise your hand? Like if you own a restaurant or you work in a restaurant, do you have to tell them, hey, I think you should consider us? Or do they have to find you by some, mythical process?
It's like both kind of. So they have open nominations, which I think is, James Beard made a pretty big effort in the last few years to make it more transparent. So they list, the judges at the end of each season. You can nominate if anyone can nominate a restaurant during the open nominations period.
So I can nominate.
You can nominate a restaurant. Yeah.
Have you ever nominated?
Perhaps.
Oh, that's so cool.
Perhaps.
But I think it also speaks to like how important a role like yours is as a dining critic, because if they're looking, say they get a nomination from Joe Schmo, like they look at it and they're like, oh, they type it into Google. Your story might be the thing that actually like sets them apart or like piques an interest or gets added to an application because, oh, here's a sense of who they are.
Yeah, I mean, and hopefully people are, doing research and doing reporting. But
yeah. But I mean, like even in that first stage where they're like, okay, if we're coming to Pittsburgh, here are the places we're going to check out.
Right.
That's so neat.
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, what other ones are there? Or are there other ones that matter?
I think those are like the big ones.
Okay.
There's StarChefs, which is a magazine. And
I've never heard of that.
So that one is like a very like industry insider magazine, and it's one that people inside the industry really care about. And they just came to Pittsburgh last year.
Did they pick anyone?
Yeah, there's like a bunch of people. So they did like an issue on it. So it's more, that one's more, it's like less awards and more like a trade magazine highlighting certain cities and regions.
This website's kind of cute.
I know, it's beautiful.
Yeah, this is nice. Okay, it looks like they went to Maryland and Virginia this year. So who did they talk about in Pittsburgh? It
was the second time in its 30-year history that it came to Pittsburgh. And it did a magazine on the Rust Belt, which was Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Detroit. And it highlighted chefs from Duos, Taqueria, Vet Fisk, Morcia, Old Thunder Brewing, the beer program at Old Thunder Brewing, and then 2 coffee makers from Dynamic Coffee Roasters and Defer Coffee and Tea as part of like their Rising Stars.
And is that kind of what they focus on, is like people that are maybe a little younger in their career or lesser known, perhaps?
Yeah, people that are younger, or like it's sort of like almost like a less like a this might be the future and more like these are people that you are going to see a lot of in the future.
Yeah.
So the first time they came here, they highlighted Jamilka Borges and Kate and Tomas from Epteca and Chad Townsend when Millie's was just starting. Neil Blazin from Driftwood Oven when he was just starting.
How long ago was that when they came the first time?
That was in 2016.
Okay.
Right?
I feel like by then, Millie's felt more new, but I feel like by then Epteca was already like the talk of the town. But I can see how like it became even more of a thing nationally.
Yeah,
right
and
after
they had
that.
Just like really started their restaurant. They were known for pierogies versus back then more than like the full restaurant. So it's like, so that's what I'm saying is like, it's places, I mean, like you wouldn't say that like Morcia, Fat Fisk, or Duos are anything but like some of the best restaurants in Pittsburgh, right? Mm-hmm. So what they're saying is the people that are in these kitchens are going to have a loud, like a big voice, an important voice moving forward. They're not flashes in the pan.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just trying to assess whether they were correct, but I think it's fair to say that they were. Right?
Yeah, they nailed it. Yeah.
Hal, as always, thank you so much for your food knowledge. I guess better luck next year for the James Beard Awards, but the Michelin Guide can go kick rocks. That's great to know.
Go Pittsburgh.
That's all for today here on City Cast Pittsburgh. You can become a member of City Cast by going to our website, membership.citycast.fm. If you go now, you can still get that exclusive merch that we'll have at our 412-day event over in Southern Tier Brewing in the North Shore. That'll be April 12th, our totally real opportunity to celebrate all the great things about living here in Pittsburgh together. We will be back tomorrow with more news from around the city. We'll talk to you then.
the playlist was very geared towards the experience.
Do you think those poor servers have to hear the same song every night?
No, apparently he has like 400 songs on the playlist, and then he keeps rotating things in and out depending on like the menu and the seasons and the mood and what he's listening to.